going on, everybody? Happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of the Lead Poison live stream. Today is episode 7, right? Give me a second, just getting my vibe. Getting the vibes going real quick. Oh, okay. So tonight, give me a second, let me open up my Twitch chat. So tonight, on episode 7, we're going to be doing a crossover team up of Wolverine and Captain America. So on this is going to be straight black and white. So this will be pretty straightforward. So I got my basic composition in. Just gonna start laying in like some clean pencils, and then we'll jump right into the inks. You know, new start to the week, new intro, new Super Bowl champs, another quote unquote controversial halftime show. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is this Logan and Cap? Yes, sir. This is but it's a period piece, right? It's set in like World War II, so it's gonna be like Wolverine with bone claws and with my sharpener. Just had it. Gonna be like Wolverine with bone claws. You know what I'm saying? Like, looking like one of the Howling Commandos. And we got OG with the helmet. Now the client did request for me to switch the shield to like the more round shield, the current shield, as opposed to the diamond, or I guess the classic shield, right, with the 3 stars on it. Let's give me uno momento. Sharpened up. This will be a straight black and white piece. So once the pencils are in, we're gonna go jump straight into the line art. You guys already know I love using the quill, so this is gonna be brushed line art as well. With a little, yes, very classy. And I'm fancy out here. Fancy. For those of you in my Twitch audience, make sure you give Hollywood one follow. He is on his road to streaming full time. Let's get this going over here. All right. So switch out the way this shield looks. Kind of round it out a little bit before laying in the pencils. Yes, sir. He is on the road to 200. 200. So you guys can assist. I promise that you guys won't be disappointed. Very entertaining streamer. I myself partake in his live streams on occasion. If I'm not busy. So, that's a little big. So shorten it about here. There we go. All right. And let's drop some details in there now. So because I want this to feel like an active battlefield, a lot of details in the faces are going to be shadowed out, due to the helmets and such. Get some feathering of Wolverine's hair kind of coming out from the helmet. I haven't been asked to do something in this aesthetic like ever, so it turned out to be a fun piece to kind of lay in. So we'll see how it turns out by the end. Other than that, what everybody doing? What did we think of the Super Bowl? How do we feel about that? I saw I saw on the news actually that the Philly fans took to the streets and started like tearing stuff up. It was like knocking traffic lights over and like setting off crazy fireworks in the middle of the streets. Like it was like the LA riots out there. I mean, some people can't have nice things. Wolverine biting the cigar here, maybe a little ash kind of coming off of it. Yeah, it was like insanity out there. Now on this pass, I'm not going to be dropping my, I'm not going to scribble in like where my blacks are going to be. I'm going to do all that with the ink, but just going to lock in all of my details so that it's a pretty straightforward roadmap. I'm laying in all that line art. Appreciate you guys tuning in on episode 7 of the Lead Poison live stream every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Also, if you guys are in the Miami area this weekend, I will be at Beyond Comic Con this Saturday from 10 to, I believe, 6, if I'm not mistaken. 10 to 6, Beyond Comic Con in North Miami Beach. Come through, come check me out. I'll be taking live commissions as always. I'll have copies of my art book. I'll be doing sketch cards, be painting live, all kinds of fun stuff. Dog tags in there too. So this is a commissioned piece. If by chance you're interested in commissioning me for any artwork, I believe I posted in in the description to this video means to get in contact with me. My email rather. My Instagram handle appears on the bottom of the screen there. Just shoot me a DM or an email, whichever you feel comfortable with, and get you set up. And if you're interested in having the commission piece done live on the next episode of Lead Poison, by all means, hit me. Round out that arm a little bit. Give you a crazy tricep here. Smooth that out. Shout out to everybody tuning in right now, my YouTube audience, Twitch, Facebook. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. We do this every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, where I render through some of my commissions live on stream with you guys. Now, Wolverine's bone claws don't need to be mechanically straight. We can get a little bit of a slight wave. Boom. It's going pretty good. Going pretty good. Pretty good. Finger can go back a bit. Knuckle can go forward. Back a little. Let's get the other hand in there. I'm really excited to ink this piece down because it's going to have a lot of blacks. It's going to feel like really, really rugged. I appreciate the solicitation, but I do all of my own artwork. The intro, graphics, I do it all. I appreciate the hustle though. A little bit of a one-stop shop over here. Indeed. My Instagram is on the screen, love. I appreciate the solicitation, but as I mentioned, I do all my own stuff over here. Kind of like, if you're a baker, why would you go out for bread? You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you. Come again. Oh man, the, the bots is botting, ain't they? The bots is botting. Botting kind of early, ain't they? Oof. I'm not used to being so ignored. I forgot what I was saying before I got into it. Just that really excited to like start inking this piece just because like what I have in mind for it is for it to feel like really gritty and like rugged. Chris Borman in the building. What's up, sir? Happy Monday to you. Welcome to episode 7. Getting into a real gritty Wolverine team up with Captain America here. Oh, nice. Very nice. Just in time, my friend. Just in time. This one isn't gonna be like a really long stream. It's this because this piece is just gonna be straight black and white. We're gonna do a little bit of an ink wash to it, drop all my line work. This one's gonna be pretty straightforward. But because it's a battle scene, right, I want to make sure I lock in all of my details before dropping my inks in and kind of get a sense for where my shadow values are going to be. This one's going to be pretty quick. So for those of you that tuned in last week I did The Witcher, right? Geralt of Rivia, battling Alessian, right? So I did part 1 Monday night, and I did part 2 um, Tuesday afternoon, right? So if you guys want to go check that out, head over to my Instagram. It's on the bottom of your screen there, Wildings Ken. That was a really, really fun piece to do, and I'm very, very happy with how that turned out. I think that was like my first like real fleshed out like Witcher piece. there. All right. Get some of the terrain popped in there. So on the rare occasion that I have a really, really big piece and I still need to like get some of the approval from the client, we'll be breaking those streams up into two parts. In which case, part two will be done the very, very next day, right? So you don't like miss out on the process. All right, let's drop cap in here. This is the first time I've done a period piece of either one of these characters, actually. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out. So the client, the client is really like giving me things that I can kind of cut my teeth on. You know what I mean? Like really challenge myself on. So shout out to him. I believe uh, I believe I have the subject for next week's lead poison as well already, which sounds really, really fun. I think you guys will dig it. Get these big cargo pockets in there. Let's get the bolster in here for the pistol. I want to keep it real old school here. Once again, I want to thank everybody tuning in so far. Episode 7 of the Lead Poison live stream. This one isn't going to be as complicated or as I guess like I'm consuming as last week's. This one's going to be pretty straightforward. I want to shout out all my viewers from Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Appreciate y'all popping in and hanging out with me. This is great as per usual. Shout out to the wife. The wife on the check-in in the chat. You know what I mean? One of my cheerleaders. One of my biggest supporters. Shout out to her. Love you, baby girl. It's gonna get a little tricky here because I forgot how I was gonna land these belts. This belt swings around back this way. wrinkle of the jacket. So, swing around this way. It's going to be the buckle. Hey, yes. W's for Melissa. W's in the chat for Melissa. You know what I'm saying? The wife and the little bro in the chat. Appreciate y'all. Let's get this wrinkle in the fatigues. All right. My jacket's gonna kind of split open here a little bit. The gesture of the arms being up is gonna, force it to open up the chest here. So we're gonna get one lapel, the other lapel here. It's gonna get a lot of back. All right. So then this will be the sleeve. That's gonna be stretched out to the corner or the elbow rather. This sleeve is gonna flare open. And get the combat gloves on. Bicep flex. See this. This is a big difference from last week. Last week I didn't have like a clear path on what I was gonna do composition wise. But you guys are seeing it firsthand. Once the composition is in and I got a clear goal, we're gonna blow right through this. And it says something that it's gonna be straight ink, so I'll be able to jam straight through this bad boy. Like that. It's got his goggles around the neck. Bear with me. These little details can get a little tricky. We have the star on its chest. All right. We're gonna get a little bit of that peck in there. And the stripes. We'll get the other lapel, drop it in there. Boom. We're gonna be able to get that little twist in in the abdomen there. Get the other belt drop. With the other pouch. So far, so good. Put that in there. It's a little tricky right here because I high key forgot what I did here. So I think there's the helmet strap. Chin strap this way. Going into the helmet. Oh, kind of embarrassing, right? But you know, we live out here. We are live out here. You know, I do it so you guys can see the full process. Much better. And then we can put a little bit of the A there. Boom. Nostril. Cheek. Neck. I'll do the other part of the strap. See what it connects it to. We'll get the ear right in there. Boom. Drop shadow there along the bridge of the nose. Shadow, shadow, shadow. Checking the pencil one more time. And then we drop in the details on the ground. I'm going to throw a Hydra agent back here. All right. So far, so good. Get these bands in here inside the shield. Right. Actually, that kind of changes the perspective of where my shield is. So let's pop that in there real quick. I do want to give the shield a little bit of depth in this perspective. So you can give it a little bit of a lip. So, there we go. So there we go. Right. There's some little stress lines right here in the pants. Pistol in there. Do we really need a pistol? Does Captain America really need a pistol? Probably not. Probably not. But, standard issue. We give him one anyway. We'll give him one anyway. So really quick, some shout outs. I want to shout out Hollywood One, who's in the chat right now, my little bro. You know what I mean? Check out his Twitch channel. Give him a follow. He's on his road to 200. Shout out to my comrade and buddy, Will Pladen. We do Back to the Drawing Board every Saturday Eastern Standard Time. And, oh, he's in the chat. What's up, Will? Shout out to you, Will. He just dropped these amazing hand painted Star Wars antique oversized sketch cards, beautifully done. Tops like Tops is man, like you're definitely elevating the game with what you're doing on Star Wars, dude. If this is a period piece, does Wolverine have bone or metal claws? He's gonna have the bone claws on this one. So like I haven't done it yet because I'm still doing the pencils, but once I start inking, I'm gonna kind of give Wolverine's claws the texture of like bone, so it feels a bit more organic. That's why I didn't like use a ruler to do the claws, so that they don't feel like mechanical. You know, absolutely, absolutely. Check us out every Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Back to the drawing board. We're doing cool stuff on there. We're talking a lot of crap as well. Things go off the rails sometimes, but such is the life of an artist, right? You know, we gotta cope with the insanity that is our minds. Let's see. I think that's good so far. Now, let's drop some stuff into the foreground. Some loose, like boards kind of protruding out of the heap that they're standing on. All right, hit this with a little bit of barbed wire. Yes, indeed. Let's coil in some barbed wire here. I like that bigger, chunkier sort of looking barbed wire. I feel like it's like I don't know, it looks gnarlier. You know what I mean? Like it could really mess you up. That razor wire, the one that like spools out. There we go. So, like I briefly mentioned earlier in the stream, I already know what next week's subject is going to be for lead poison, and yes, razor wire. Um, and it's interesting. I gotta say, this client that I have in particular that's been commissioning these, you know, has been like really like keeping me on my toes with the things he's been commissioning. Like I've been having a blast working on the stuff that he's been like asking for, right? Because it's like not to say that it's not anything out of this world, but you know, it's forcing me out of like, my little comfort bubble, to try a lot of different like gestures, a lot of pair ups, right? Like in this particular case, I've never done, a Captain Wolverine, in like the World War II aesthetic. Like I've never done that. So, this is a fun experiment for me. So uh, next week is going to be Spider-Man 2099 crossed over with Batman Beyond. Yes. So that is going to be on next week's episode of the Lead Poison live stream. And be going into the future. Bit of a cyberpunk aesthetic. Yes. Yes. I figured that would get your attention. Yes. Batman Beyond, Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, and Terry McGinnis. So the challenge in that is thinking about what the gestures are going to be. Like, how am I going to compose that on the sheet? So for context, this is a 9x12. I'm doing this on 9x12, so it's not super big, right? At least it's not as big as I like to work on, right? My typical size of choice pause is 11 by 14 or larger, right? Like 11 by 17 particularly, right? Like The Witcher last week was 11 by 17. That's a very comfortable size for me to work on. So, for a lot of these smaller sizes, if it's not a sketch card, you know, I tend to, stay away from doing multiple characters in something so small. But, I have to say that I am enjoying, you know, working in these like fixed aesthetics, right? Like never done anything like this, like a period piece like this. So this has definitely been a lot of fun to kind of think about and like render in a very convincing way. Now let's get the edge of that heat. Bring up more of the razor wire. Pull it back out. So this will just be ink and an ink wash. But I'm going to play around with a lot of texture, right? Because I want it to feel sort of like gritty, grimy, right? Intense, sort of like visceral in its message. Throw a lot of shadows down, not too much negative space. Let's get a board right here with a nail sticking out of it. There we go. This would be my shadow for Cap. Shadow for Cap about there. Rocks, rocks, rocks. Now, let's see here. Now, this part is all improv right now. So I want to put a Hydra agent like right back here, like he just caught a nasty uppercut from Cap, right? So let me pull up a quick reference of Hydra agent. I want the OG look of the Hydra agents with the yellow and the green and like the yellow goggles. That's it. That's it. So very lightly drop that into blue, just so I don't like make the piece too muddy. Put that head out there. That'll be my eye line. That's about here. Put his hand about there. Ooh, you know what? I think I'll crack. Put a little fragment of the goggle, like kind of flying off his face. Yeah. Nose, cheek, jaw. His lips off to the far right. Swing the jaw out that way, like so. Center of the body, or torso rather. Hydra agent's got like these yellow suspenders, like pouches on them. And let's put hands open right here. See here. I know it's gonna be hard to see, but bear with me. It's kind of how like I figure things out before doing like in final, and it keeps the art like from getting too muddy. All right, switch now. Under there, shoulder, chest, twist in the outfit, the cowl. That'll be a piece of the goggle. Fragment kind of flying off his face. Couple fragments. That'll be the nose. Bring the cheek forward a little bit. Ear's going to be about there. There's the jaw. And then we'll pucker his lips out to the right. Boom. Bring the suspender out. And get a little segments on the suspenders. On the hand, 2, 3, and then the thumb. Shoulder in like so. I'm gonna lean him back kind of far so we get that nice sort of like flow of action going backwards. I found that I can paint a very nice portrait on a comic cover rather than a full character, a full figure character. Well, what do you mean, Chris? Like, do you mean that like if you focus on like say the bust of a subject, like you feel that that turns out better than if you were to do a full like the full anatomy of the character? Cool. All right. Look at the rest of the body here. Silhouette, because I want it to feel kind of dusty. Back, ribs, armpit. Boom. All right. This will be black. All right. I think we're ready to ink. Yeah, a quality bust, torso versus a full body in the same space. See, now look, therein lies that awareness, right? You want to be able to identify where you're weak at, and that's where you should focus. You know what I mean? That's an aspect where you should focus, right? For at the very least the next couple months. You know, cause I've seen your portrait work. Your portrait work is fire. You do really clean portrait work. but I've seldom seen a lot of your full body work. So if you feel like that's where you're weak at, and then kind of like judging the proportions to scale of the subjects that are in the shot could be that could be a good sign that like now it's time to get back in the dungeon to work on that, because every so often locking yourself in the dungeon is necessary to problem solve, right? And I've seen a lot of different approaches to how those compositions get laid in, right? That in retrospect, I've used them myself after seeing how some guys do it, and it's worked, right? Especially when you're working with more complex uh compositions, right? Like something that's got a lot going on. You want to make sure that things are working in proportion, that the perspective is correct, even though it might be forced a little bit in some areas, right? And one approach that I've seen that I've also used is, instead of starting with the subject's head, you start with placing where the torso is, right? Because obviously the torso is like a pretty significant part of the anatomy, right? So in the piece, depending on how much space you're working with, by placing where you would imagine the torso to be, kind of gives you a little bit of insight as to the rest of the layout, right? And as you're rendering through your composition, right? And this is, obviously before details, before any, I guess refined forms in the anatomy, right? You kind of eyeball how things sort of relate to one another. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was dropping in Wolverine, I looked at his face, and then I looked at his fist, you know, and then I, made adjustments in accordance with, how big his fist should be in comparison to his face in this perspective, right? It's kind of like getting in the habit of problem solving every few seconds. You know what I mean? Instead of like allowing yourself to go on autopilot, and render all the way through. That's something that's like I've found to be like really, really helpful, particularly when I do a lot of like cover work, because I don't encounter that issue very often when I'm doing sequentials, but when I'm doing cover work and it's like I got multiple subjects in the cover, yeah, I'll have to, kind of switch gears and remind myself to do that. So here we are. This is the fun part. As a matter of fact, I think I should zoom in so you guys can really like check that out. So This part of like the process is like meditation for me. I can get lost in thought like just doing this. And the scratch of the nib is always, always, always satisfying. So because he's got the bone claws, these claws don't need to be perfectly straight lines. So we can have a little bit of wobble to them. Let's get a little more ink on the nib. There we go. As always, I'm going to follow up a lot of this line work with a brush to drop in a lot of the heavier shadows. This will get a lot of the line work in. Pen's flowing tonight. Ink is doing what it's supposed to do. So I don't foresee any difficulties. Sometimes the nib likes to misbehave on me. But she's behaving herself tonight. All right. Let's get these pockets in. Once again, if you guys are going to be in the Miami area this weekend, beyond Comic Con in North Miami Beach, I'm going to be posting about it on my Instagram and in my IG story. They're also on Facebook. So if you go to Beyond Comic Con, the fan page, I believe this year is year 4 of the event. I will be there this Saturday from about 10 to 6. I'm going to have a lot of my usual goodies. I'm going to be doing commissions, of course. You know, pull up, hang out with your boy. You know, get some new heat. You know, I like bringing that fire. And then later on that Saturday evening, Eastern Standard Time, you can catch me and Will Playden on Back to the Drawing Board. on the YouTubes, on the Twitches. Well, I simulcast on Twitch, but definitely on the YouTube channel. You know, so if you're in my YouTube audience right now, make sure to give me a like and sub, right, to be notified when I go live. Will and I and have been doing a lot of art challenges as of late. I think we're going to pick up and finally finish off Tila of Masters of the Universe this weekend. So check us out. Hang out with us. We like to discuss the process. We answer any questions. We talk pop culture news, you know, and talk crap with the chat. It's one of our favorite things to do. Now, you heard me mention a couple times already that I wanted to make this feel nice and gritty. Right? So I want to make these boots feel like they've been shredding through dirt. A lot of debris getting kicked up. And a lot of that is communicated through the lines, right? So a lot of the messages as to what I want you to feel in the experience of what's going on in the shot is, communicated through the lines that we put down. Will's got a question. Kenny, when a client asks for a commission, how do you guide them through the concept to realization process? That's a great question, man. So based on what the client wants, right? I ask a series of questions, right? In this particular case, the client just kind of threw out, "Hey, I want this image of Wolverine and Cap, and this is the aesthetic that I want. I want like the World War II aesthetic, you know, maybe fighting some Hydra agents and so forth. But what he had in mind wouldn't necessarily like work with the amount of space that he commissioned the work in, right? Like in this case, this piece is 9 by 12, right? Now on a on an 11 by 17, okay, right? Because now we got a lot more real estate to work with, you know. And then I'd be able to sort of drop in uh, a lot of subjects into the piece, so that he gets what he's like imagining, right? So I do remind the client the limitations of the amount of real estate that they're commissioning the work in, right? And sure, a 9 by 12 is a little more cost effective than like an 11 by 17, for what they want. But in the process of talking to them and asking certain questions, I'm able to gather what is most important to them, right? So like, sure, he wanted World War II Wolverine, sort of like dressed like a Howling Commando, and WW2 Cap, with the jacket, the original shield, but like he later on changed it back to the circular one. So that was the most important thing that he wanted to like have as far as like imagery. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's do that. You know what I mean? So that at the very least, he's more satisfied with it, right? And everything else would have been filler. He really just wanted the aesthetic, right? So, I ask lots of questions, right? Because objectively, you want to get as close to the vision that the client has as possible, right? You want to get there as close to it as possible so that, you can almost guarantee satisfaction, right? And that's what I did here. And in which case, with every rough sketch, like I started this sketch off with my non-photo blue, which is part of my process. I show them the sketch, and if they approve it, we move forward. I go on live. I like, if it's something that I'm doing on the live stream, I'll go live with it and drop my final pencils. They're typically tuning in, to watch me work on the artwork live. And yeah, it's so one of the key elements that any artist should do is keep the client up to date with every phase of the artwork, right? Because clients tend to get kind of anxious when they don't hear from you for a long time. You know, you got to understand also that a lot of clients, and I'm saying, like, I'm speaking in general because I know that well, a lot of clients don't have a concept of time, right, when it comes to the creative process. So, if they don't hear from you, they're gonna get anxious. They're gonna think, you're kind of, phoning it in or twiddling your thumbs. They don't, they don't have a concept of like the process. So with every commission, I like to keep all of my clientele like in the loop of the process. So if I have a certain idea for a composition, I'll send them the rough sketch. That way in that phase they can tell me, hey, I like this, we change that, we can make some alterations, we can make some edits, you know. Um just like the shield for this piece, like I mentioned, you know. So because he gave me permission to do this on the live stream, I'm gonna blow through it in one go without having to like wait for approval, right? But last week's stream with The Witcher, after I dropped the pencil work for the composition and so forth, right? Because I didn't do that beforehand. I broke up last week's stream into two streams so that I can do all of the inks and colors after getting the client's approval. You know, and the client, every client that I've worked with, everyone that's worked with me for years, they appreciate that and they know that about the process of working with me. It's how one maintains a good reputation. It's very, very crucial. So just kind of talking to them and 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 making note of what it is in particular that they're emphasizing on or that they fixate on. That's what I'll like lay focus to. Everything else, if it feels secondary in the way they're describing it to me, it's not that important to them. I'm gonna drop a brush in there anyway, so just want to pull out some of the shapes that we have in Wolverine. And here we're going to drop a nice deep shadow, but relatively sharp. Now I'm going to come back through with a really fine micron, just so I can get the arm hair on Wolverine. I like hairy Wolverine. I don't like pretty Wolverine. I'm going to give him his facial hair. I'm going to give him the body hair. That's the Wolverine we like over here. More specifically, with a con sketch, have you ever had a client misspoke about what they want? I just had this happen to me at work where a client actually wanted a shower installed but kept saying tub shower. So, yes. So that's why like in every phase, right? Like I'll keep them updated. So it's like, in the event that there's a miscommunication at some point, um I'm covered when I say that, look, but you said this and I showed you, like, very specific images as to like what I'm talking about, you know, that like this particular client, as a matter of fact, you know, when we were discussing what he wanted for this piece, we bounced images back and forth, you know, and it's not uncommon for that to happen, because it's easy for people to kind of get lost in translation, right? So, I when he described it to me, is, you know, he didn't really know how to put it into words, and me just kind of guessing the gist of what he was going for, I like went into Pinterest, or I pulled up a Google image, and I sent it to him. I was like, so something like this, or you know what I mean? And he responded with his own images, and he was like, yeah, something like that, da, 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 da. So, you know, it's really important that before you do anything, before you put pencil to paper, before you agree to anything, that you're clear on what your task is, so that you're not A, doing double the work, or B, working for nothing. That's why before I do anything, whenever I get commissioned to do anything, I have a long conversation with the client. You know, it doesn't it's not always like a long conversation, but you get what I'm saying. You know, I gotta talk to them, you know, and make sure that we're all on the same page before I start putting in the labor. That I had something like that happen a few years ago. It was early in my career. Um, and what saved me was the fact that like you know, I kept them in the loop as to what I was doing and the direction that I was moving in. So it was like he had like I showed him an image more or less of what it would look like, in the rough, or what the composition was going to be, more or less. And he was like, yeah, 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 yeah. But then it was like when it was done, it was, oh, but can we? And at that point, it was too late to make any changes. And I was like, that's why I update you often, right? So that like if we need to make changes, we can make them. So now it's kind of late, and he was a good sport about it. He understood it. He's still a client of mine today. But that's one of the reasons why, as an artist, I communicate as much as I do, because it's not so much maintaining the client relationship, but you're also educating the client on how artists work and how we think. So even if they commission another artist to do some work for them, they'll understand that it's not as easy or as like cut and dry as they imagine it to be. All right, so far so good. Yep. A New York comic book collector act with management for a concept of Wolverine versus a Sabretooth type. What he actually meant was Sabretooth. Ah, did he repeat it back to him when he when he said that? So was it, you want Wolverine against a saber-toothed tiger, right? Like that's what I would have done. I'd have asked him. I'd have repeated what he said, slowly, so that he can hear what he said to me, and then that's like another way that they can kind of catch themselves. Yeah, man, that happens. And a lot of the time you can't blame the client too much because they're excited. You know what I'm saying? Like they're excited, so it's like they're not uh, of all their senses in the moment. You know what I mean? Charles, how's it going, buddy? Multiple times you repeated it back more than six. Oh, then then that's clearly the client's fault. You know what I mean? Clearly that's the client's fault. All right, so far so good. All right. Now I'm gonna do a couple hatching lines here. All right. That's going to be black. I want that silhouette to open up into some negative space. We're checking out your fantastic art, man. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. By the way, for those of you in the audience right now, I believe Charles W. Morgan has a Kickstarter running right now for his creator-owned comic called Cold Cutter. All right, so Charles, if you have it handy, drop it in the chat, sir. Drop the link to the campaign in the chat so that the good folks can be aware of the goodness that you have on your campaign. All right. Let's very quickly drop in some of the dirt on the heap they're standing on, some of the textures, some of the debris. I want it to feel dirty and dusty. Thanks so much. I don't come out to watch this. I'm very humble. Man, listen, rising tide, right? Rising tide. I shout out everybody that's got something going on in the chat, you know. So that's all that is, sir. Rising tide, raising all ships. My cousin is in the chat right now. He's a Twitch streamer. I shouted him out earlier. So you know what I mean? Like, if I can help get some eyes on something that anybody in the audience has going on, why not, right? Once again, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this episode 7 of the Lead Poison live stream. Like, high key, the Lead Poison live stream was something that I completely improv. I had, no plans of doing a separate live stream outside of, what I do with Will on a weekly basis. But, I missed streaming, and I had like a little bit of a gap in between projects. Will was kind of tied up, understandably so. And, you know, I had gotten a commission for that Havoc piece that I did earlier in the year, as a matter of fact. I think shortly after the new year started. So I figured, why not? Let's drop an impromptu live stream, right? And I gotta say, it felt good. I missed it. So here we are. So I appreciate everybody that's been week after week, supporting it, and supporting everything that I do, that everything my brand does, Wild Inks, the projects that I'm a part of. I appreciate you guys supporting that, and I appreciate a lot of the creators that solicit me to work on their projects. And it doesn't go unnoticed. So here we go. This is Charles W. Morgan's link to his Kickstarter. I'm going to favorite that so it stays up on the screen there. I'll check it out in a minute, Chris. Got the flow going, The ink is flowing. The vibes are good. So yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to shout you guys out for the continued support. and everyone who will watch this later that has always supported, Wild Links and everything and all of my endeavors. You know, I got tons of stuff coming out this year. A lot of my own creator-owned projects in the works. As well as projects that I'm illustrating for other people. So, I'm out here in a big way, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate all of the support that I get. Let's get this pistol pouch or holster. And get some of these little buckles in, right? These little rings. I like doing those. A little sheen going right there. All right. What nib am I using? I'm using a G nib. I'm using a G nib. These are, I'll show you right now. This is a Tachikawa nib holder or dip pen, Tachikawa dip pen with a G nib. So let me give it a quick wipe so you can see what I'm doing. So the G nib, let's see if you can see it there. G nib's got a little G on on the nib there. So it's like basically like the general nib, right? So like you can get a pretty decent range of line weight with a G nib. The other one that I use, I have it here somewhere, is a calligraphy nib. It gives me like the hairline line weight, and I have it on a separate nib holder. Let me show you what I'm talking about. But this is my go-to, the G nib. So then for the really really fine line weights, like for the hair and hair textures that I'm going to be putting on Wolverine, I use this one. This one is also from Tachikawa. This one is more so for like the calligraphy, but it gives me such a fine line that it works for a lot of hair textures. And the ink that I use is Sumi. This one, the Red Cat Sumi Japanese ink. I find that this flows really, really well out of the nib. The only time that it'll clog on you is if you've left the ink out uncovered for a long period of time, which obviously anyone who uses a dip pen shouldn't do. Um, but yeah, if it flows out of the nib really, really easily, aside from that, it dries super quick. So after about 30 seconds or so, like you can go over your line work with a wet medium, like I'm gonna do tonight. So after all my line work is in, I'm gonna go over it with a little bit of an ink wash, so I can get some gray values. And yeah, man, like I'm able to like watercolor right over this if I needed to. So That like those are my go-tos. And I use a sable brush for my large black areas. Uh, to expedite, the process, I'll use a Pentel pocket brush, which I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that one, Pentel pocket brush. That one's really really good. Tachikawa also has a pocket brush that works really really well. Oh yeah, Pelican's another great one. Pelican's another great one. But because I tend to work with a lot of wet media, and I'm usually working at a show that I'll bring my nib to, and color stuff on the fly. Like the Sumi's my go-to, man. And this is a little sidebar, a little side trick, right? So if by any chance, if your wife has one of these, this is a makeup brush, right? An old makeup brush that I trimmed. These right here, when you use this over some wet ink, it gives you a really really soft lens around the edges. Oof, next level, next level. I've had that one for years. But this part of the process right here is meditation for me. When I get to doing this stuff, inking and painting, it's therapy. That the G nib is the nib that's used primarily in manga. So if you're like like read through a manga and you like look at the line quality, this is the nib that they use for that because it's very very like responsive to pressure. It not necessarily a feathered edge, but a soft lens edge. So like that cloudy, misty. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it. Watch. You'll see it. You'll see it. Hang out for a little bit. You'll see me use it when I break out the brush. That I've used it on. I used it with watercolor. I use it on a lot of the heavier ink pieces that I've done. That it gives me it. So you've seen me do this on live streams where I'll lay in a big black area and then I'll smudge it with a napkin or a paper towel, right? Just so I could get like those nice cloudy sort of values to kind of fill in a lot of negative space, right? So it does that, but more controlled, right? You got more control with how and where. We're getting there, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting there. 'Cause right here, this is just like this is the final bit, really, because a lot of the stuff down there is going to be loose. You know, for like the tighter areas, we want to make sure that this is tight up on cap. Nate, how's it going, buddy? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what we're doing. You hit it right on the head, sir. This is going to be a black and white piece. So, following up will be the gray washes and the black blocking of the shadows. So, I gotta say, I mean, I mentioned it earlier in the stream, but like this has been a really, really fun piece to work on. It's been one of those pieces that like kind of like challenges me with regard to how I think about communicating an aesthetic. And who's in the background? In the background, right here, I have a Hydra agent that just caught a mean cross from Cap. Are you doing more color pieces lately, or just black and white? So I'm finding myself doing more black and like larger, the larger pieces. I'm finding myself doing more black and white, right? I'm seeing a bigger interest in the black and white artwork, right? Especially since I started doing incorporating like an ink wash, those grays into what I do, right? I'm seeing a lot of my clientele like requesting and commissioning more black and white work. The color work is still good, right? It's still getting, the love, it's still getting a lot of attention, and I still have uh, a pretty decent amount of clients that, prefer color over anything. But when it comes to work in this style and in this aesthetic, right? Like in comic art, I say, I'm seeing more requests for black and white. You know, especially when you're working with Sumi ink and you're using a dip pen, the line art stays raised on the page, so it adds to the novelty of having an original inked like comic piece. Let's get up here and boom. So for those of you just tuning in, this is episode 7 of the Lead Poison live stream. Tonight, we're illustrating Captain America teaming up with Wolverine. This is going to be a black and white piece. So just laying in some of the line art, and then we're going to start dropping in some of the brushed ink values. And then finish it off with a bit of a gray wash to pull out some of the mid-tone values in the artwork. This is a commissioned piece, so if you are interested in commissioning some artwork from me, you can always hit me up via email. I believe I placed it in the description to this video. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitch, you can hit me via my Instagram handle. It's also placed on the screen on the bottom there. You know, however it is that you get in touch with me, just hit me up. Commission spots are limited because I am in the process of working on a couple of book projects right now. So I have many commissions, but you know, some light commission work, like this piece, uh, like uh, like last week's The Witcher, which I'm very, very proud of how that piece came out. You know, so long as it's not anything too complicated, too time consuming, you know, I should be able to work that in. And you know, if you're interested in having the piece done live on an episode of Lead Poison, you know, let me know. We can arrange that. So I'm hoping you guys are having a great start to the week. And I appreciate you guys popping in. We do this every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shout out to Charles Morgan, who's in the chat. I highlighted his link to the Kickstarter campaign that he's got running right now for Cold Cutter. And by supporting the campaign and supporting the catch-up tier, you will receive my variant on issue 1 of his series. So if you're into noir detective stories, it's a great issue to jump into. Charles is the writer, creator, and artist. He does all of his own stuff. For me, it depends on what the subject is, whether it's color or not. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. You know, with a lot of the work that I've done for you, you know, I could see that. You know how that would influence what the final piece is going to look like. I missed last week. Pissed me off that I did that too. What was last week's character? Last week was The Witcher. The Witcher fighting a Leshen. So because I did the pencils live on the stream, I didn't like pre-plan what the composition was going to be. After I did the pencil art, I had to cut it there so that I can get approval from the client, you know, with regards to, you know, what I had done before moving on, because that piece was going to be done in color. So I shot him a photo of the line art in pencil. That night, he approved it. So the very next day, Tuesday, at about 2 p.m. or so, I did the rest of it. So parts 1 and 2 of The Witcher should be on a playlist in YouTube. I managed to put all of the lead poison, like the series of lead poison live streams, all on a playlist. So you should be able to like check that out if you guys follow me on YouTube. But I was very very happy with the way that piece came out. I was, this is the first time I've ever done like a Witcher. Like I've done like a sketch card or two of The Witcher, but like for it to be a big finished like colored piece, that was my first one. And like I had people like asking me if it was for sale, like after I posted the final work, you know. So I was very very happy with how it came out. It should be on my feed, as a matter of fact. So if you go down my feed here on Facebook, it should still be up there. It should be one of like my recent postings before today's live stream. Yeah, I'm trying to do better at like managing, the video consumption, right? Because I do my lives with Will, right, which are a little different because we're painting through those lives. But the purpose of lead poison is to be a bit quicker, be a bit more condensed, but still have the same feel of answering questions and just kind of chopping it up with you guys. Let's get this other pouch here, the lapel. Boom. Bam. Let's get Steve's teeth right here. All right, we're in motion. We are in motion. We're barely at the 2 hour mark. I like it. I like it. So I'm hoping that you guys are all off to a great start to your work week. Once again, if you guys are going to be in the Miami area this weekend, actually, I will be at Beyond Comic Con in North Miami Beach from about 10 a.m. to 6, I believe. We'll be there all day. Come check me out. I'll be there, giving you guys that fire, that heat, figuratively, obviously. I'll be taking commissions live, you know. So if it's something that I can knock out for you at the event, beautiful. I'll have some prints. I got some new prints. I'll have copies of the art book. I'm a little behind on volume 2, and it's only because I've got new pieces that I'd like to include in that. So, volume 2 coming soon. And I'm also working on putting together some creator owned IPs. So 2025 gonna be a good year for your boy. Get some of these. So I'm going to be bouncing around a little bit. It's only because I want to allow those lines to set. Before I jump back up there and finish off the shield and all the little straps. Now, a lot of the debris that's going to be on the heap is gonna be dropped in with the brush. Do a little bit of texturing with the brush and the ink, but it's gonna block out this little silhouette that Steve is casting right here. Right. All right, so far so good. So far so good. So Nate, I mentioned it earlier. If you're still in the chat, I mentioned it earlier, but I already know what next week's subject is going to be. I got the commission. I believe it was over the weekend. Next week is going to be a crossover of Spider-Man 2099 and Terry McGinnis's Batman Beyond. So it's going to be very cyberpunk. And I'm going to need to really put some thought into how I'm going to do that, like that composition. Because it's got to be interesting, right? I gotta look again to see if it's gotta be something that I do in color or if they just want it in black and white. Black and white would be fine, but something with like that cyberpunk aesthetic, color might need to be the way to go. Also, did you guys hear about some of the stuff that we might be getting in the new season of X-Men '97? Apparently,
there was like an ad for it on Disney Plus, a new ad talking about season two. And then I go looking into the interwebs, checking to see if there's any news on what we can expect. And apparently, some of the things that we can expect is a new X team. So, with that, that means the potential for either Generation X, right, which is the Jubilee led team of young mutants, like the New Mutants, but like the most recent, I guess, like iteration of that genre, right? X Force, right? Since like a bunch of the X Men are like time displaced, right? And we already got the intro to Cable. X Factor, right? Because we've already seen a couple of the mutants or a couple of the characters from the X Men like kind of be disillusioned with Charles Xavier's vision for mutant kind. And what was the other one? X Factor, X Force. Ooh, the Exiles. The Exiles, which are like the time hopping mutant team from like different timelines. I did see that they were going to bring in um, Danger, which is the sentient version of the Danger Room, right? In the comics, uh, the program known as Danger for the Danger Room in the X Mansion gets a body. So they did release that, but they haven't touched upon whether or not we're going to see some Horsemen of Apocalypse. So we'll see. That X-Men 97 show, problem. Oh, whatever it is that they're doing, they keep doing it. All right. We're going to finish off this razor wire. Drop in some of these rocks along the way. And then it's on to big shadow blocks. Razor wire up. A little heavier here because I want this razor wire to feel like it's coming at us. A little bit of the rock here, some rubble. this razor wire forward a bit. All right. Minimal color, like highlighting along the lines with the red, blue, dull black. Yeah, the private detective series with X Factor. See, that sounds interesting. Private detective series with X Factor. That could be interesting. I mean, one of the things that these writers have at their disposal is like a near endless supply of not just stories, but mutants. You know what I mean? Like, and confirmed are the Claremont designs, the Claremont suits in X-Men '97. So like, we're gonna see all of those alternate outfits that we remember from the Claremont run coming into X-Men '97. See, so long as they keep hitting me where I live, they can have my money. Like, it's a no-brainer. Let's finish off a little bit of this heap here. Drop a little bit of shadow along this razor wire. All right. Now we can jump back up top, finish off that arm, and get the goon in the back. Let's get these bands here. Just bear with me. These lines here tend to be kind of easy to like screw up in this perspective. So don't mind the pregnant pauses. Yeah, his thumb here. All right, that's important. We get finger, finger, finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pinky. Get the knuckles up here. All right. Wrist. That might do it. A little bit of a drop shadow there coming off the straps. All right. gonna do the shielding, and then we can jump into the heavier blacks with a brush. All right. In here real nice. I'm gonna break up this line so I can get a sort of highlight effect reflecting off the shield. Bam. A little bit of wear along the edges. Now right in here, we're gonna get a strong shadow. So we're gonna hatch out of that. All right, so now let's get the guy in the back. Let's drop in our shadows. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You gotta break the line up every so often just to kind of get the illusion of a highlight. You know, Lee Weeks did it really well. Shoot. Who also did it really well and often actually was Rob Liefeld. Um, it was really prominent in uh, in the Youngblood books, right? I was one of those guys that like I loved Youngblood when it first came out, even though it was basically an Avengers rip. But if you look at those lines closely, he tends to break up the line at the peak of a curve, so we get that illusion of a glare or a highlight. I'm gonna get in here, get his nostril here. That's gonna be the brow. I went with old school Hydra agents in the old school like green and yellow. Maybe the bottom of the jaw. We'll pucker his lips out to the side. And then we'll get the rest of the hood in there. All right. Cheek. Oh. neck. Abdomen. Let's get that hand in there. Bring it back. Other side of the pec. Put that pinky in there. Boom. Boom. Hand. Thumb. Glove. Arm. Armpit. Shadow in there. Little fragments of the goggles. All right.
Old school is good.
Yes, sir. Old school is very good. I'm gonna rinse off this nib real quick. I'm gonna switch over to the brush. Just rinse this off real quick. Let's get, you know what? Let's throw in a couple veins in Wolverine's arm. Yeah, let's get the vein in here real quick. Cut a little vein in here. Cut one going across here. Adding a couple veins in there will kind of give us an added like intensity. Right. Get them one in here too. All right, I'm gonna do it. All right. So now let's switch over to our shadows. Let's grab the pocket brush. The pocket brush. Bam. All right, get my little makeup brush going as well. I'm going to start with the drop shadows under the characters first. Right up on there. Excuse me. Right up on there, break up some negative space in there to get some gravel. Gravel in there. Boom. Right? Now while that's wet, I'm just gonna kind of tug along the edge there. Gives us a nice soft value there. Yeah, no problem. No problem. I mean, I'm not gonna be reading like any messages right now. I mean, I gotta keep the stream going. In the shadows, I'm just breaking up some of the negative space in like chunky blocks to read like rock formations. Right? So we get a bit of that gravel under the characters. Right? From here, we go straight up into cat's leg. Let's soften that up a little. So let's get some of the deeper shadows on the inside of the leg here. Now, a lot of the shadows that I'm dropping in right here are just improv, right? I'm just kind of eyeballing it and distinguishing where my shadows are gonna be placed, you know, just based off of what's going on in the scene, the gestures that the characters are in, imagining more or less what kind of lighting I'm working with. So it's usually during like this phase of the artwork that that even for me, like the art really starts to like come to life. So usually after I'll do a lot of this blocking, I'll come back through it with some light hatching. Just so everything feels nice and crisp. We're gonna get some deep shadows in here. very careful because like the ink in a pocket brush tends to stay wet for a long period of time. It's not like the sumi ink. So I want to be careful not to kind of go over a freshly inked spot. This is where things really start to come together for me. Drop shadow in there. Boom. All right, let's kind of eyeball this a little bit, get a sense for where the rest of the shadows are going to hit. We're going to get one there for sure. We get one in here, definitely. One along there, along the lip, definitely. Let's see here. Here. Really important that I like rotate the artwork because I don't want to smear over a freshly inked spot. And the way I'm making this, right? The strokes in the ink communicate like certain patterns in the artwork, right? So it's important that you kind of rotate it when you need to. Let's see here. So now we can get in here. All right, this will be our shadowed side. Clean up that curve. Now, pull some softer hues out of that thing. So we got a nice little fade right here. Boom. And see what I'm talking about, Charles? Get that smooth, soft lens sort of gradient coming out of the black, right? Sort of provides a bit of visual support to the hatching. Boom. Now, we pull some of that ink down the center. Giving us a nice terminal line. See what I mean? You gotta strike while the ink is relatively wet. So like with the Sumi ink, I don't do it too much with the Sumi ink. I use the ink out of the pocket brush or um or this brush pen, right? Like something that stays relatively wet for a considerable amount of time, right? And then it's able to like draw out just enough of the black to where you can almost get, you know, like almost like a charcoal sort of like texture with the gray. So it's like I wouldn't use it to, for example, replace hatching. I would use it to support what you do in your hatching, right? To add like that extra layer of depth in your hatching. Like I'm gonna do a little bit in there and pull it down so I get a nice soft shadow. Go across a bit so I get that soft shadow underneath the brim of Cap's helmet. Bam. Like after I discovered that, oof, next level. Next level. And then you always like so long as you don't rinse it off right away, you always got a little bit left in the bristles that you can kind of smudge in. Let's get the boots. Let's get Wolverine. Let's see. So this will mostly be Shadowed up. That'll be his back pocket. There'll be a little pocket sort of pronounced open. Get this little split here. We're gonna get a shadow underneath here. So from here, I'm going to start dense and then soften. Here, I can keep this a solid shadow. So, there's some of these wrinkles in the pants, in the pocket. Now, because we got the claws kind of close to the pants here, we'll do a drop shadow with the claws. Thank you. Amelia Clark. So this weekend I'm going to yeah, dude. Like it goes back to what I'm saying, Chris. You know, when you feel like you hit like an area where things aren't reading quite the way you want them to, experiment, do things outside of the comfort zone, dude. That this me finding out this about the makeup brush and playing around with like semi-wet ink or doing an ink wash, that was all experimentation. That was me just kind of sitting here and like I would see like there's an artist that I follow. There's an artist that I follow on Instagram. He does a lot of like anime inspired uh like mecha illustrations. So it's always like stuff like Gundam or Transformers or Robotech. He does like that's what he does. It's all like mecha stuff, right? Because he's really good with tech. So then I'm just looking at his posted completed work, and I'm like, man, that looks really clean. And I was wondering like how he would sort of like pack all of those grays in there if he was using a micron. And turns out, you know, he was using either the ink water to create a wash, right? Or the the ink that's already on the art with a wet brush and pulling the values from that. Like, wow, like that's brave. Because I wouldn't have thought to do that, and B, I would have been too intimidated that I would screw up what I drew, just for the sake of experimenting. So like, I tried it on some like just a couple practice pieces. Like I drew something, I inked it down, and then I just kind of played around with the ink and the brush to see what kind of like different values I'd be able to get. And man, I was very pleased. So, after a bit of practice, I got confident enough to be able to do it on like commissioned work, and have it like legit read well. Let's see, what am I missing? Let's get in here, drop a shadow. Let's get one underneath this glove. Pull this out. I do like the look of having an entire sketchbook of pencils, but some pieces have so much black in it, it's hard to show variations of depth and highlights with pencil. No, for sure, for sure. I mean, the only other solution to getting around that is, obviously using different grades of pencils, like making more use of like your H pencils over your B's, you know, and then like adjusting pressure wherever needed. But ink ink makes those values nice and bold, and now you know how to soften some of those values in a way that's like permanent, and it won't smudge. See, this is the type of information you guys get from the Lead Poison live stream, ladies and gentlemen. I don't gatekeep. I share. I share the info. I want everybody to grow together and benefit from being creative. I'm not going to feather highlights into Wolverine's hair. I want to keep it nice and dark, nice, solid, and lush. There we go. Just lay in some light ink in here, just so I can pull that out, or down, as it were, just like how I did for Cap. Get a little bit on the cigar. Let's see, let's give it a once over and see if we're missing anything. No, looks good, looks good, looks good. Actually, I think now we can put in Wolverine's body hair. Before I do that, let me do a quick cleanup with the eraser. Get all these pencil lines up. This piece is almost done, ladies and gentlemen. And sure enough, I'm having a blast working on it. Definitely something a little different than what I'm used to. But we're gonna close it out with a quick gray wash. Getting up all these loose pencil lines. And then we'll hit it with a little bit of maybe a little ink spatter just for some texture. I used a really soft lead when I laid in my pencils, so it made some parts of the art kind of muddy. So before I lay in the gray wash, I want to get rid of some of that graphite. Okay, side eye. All right, where is the micron? All right. See a couple areas that I missed with my nib. All good. Clean up Wolverine a little more. All right. So Wolverine, I like old school hairy Wolverine. Now this micron that I'm using is an O1, but it's an O1 that's like barely it barely has any ink to it. But it's still got plenty of value left in it to do the job. On the edges here. See, one of the things that for me as an artist, as a you know what, not so much as an artist, but I just as a lover of comics, right? I like when the artist takes the time to add those little nuances to a character like Wolverine's body hair. You know, like if Wolverine looks too clean or too polished, I feel like it takes me out of it. Like I need Wolverine to feel hairy. So that body hair's got to be present. Bring it back around the elbow. Now, the way I apply the body hair on Wolverine, I like to do it in columns, right? Like the way I started up here in the shoulder. I'll start with like 3 or 4, maybe 5 columns, you know, of hair moving across the arm, right? And I move along with the positioning of the muscle in the arm. So a nice, quick, thin line weight does the trick. Bam. We'll do the same thing on the other arm. We want to make sure that we come off the body there, right? So we get that nice prickly texture coming off of Wolverine. All right. Get some of that texture in there on the chest. and work it in there along the face. This part's not that exciting, but devil's in the details. It's not Wolverine if he's, not hairy. Like, that's a clean shaven Wolverine. That's weird. All right. That's some of the ash dripping off the cigar there. Hair on the other arm. Patch in some areas, just make sure we get some nice depth in there. Let's see here. That's good. That's good. That's good. All right. Long stretch. Touch up some areas here on cap. Drop in the gray washes. And this one is in the books. So we're coming up on hour number 3. So once again, I want to take the time to say thank you to everybody that's been supporting the Lead Poison live stream. I greatly appreciate you guys. And if you didn't know, I do these live streams for you. I enjoy the human contact. I enjoy hanging out with you guys. Chopping it up, talking art, talking pop culture stuff, talking comics. This gives me a little bit of a break from all the work that I do, freelancing and such. So it's a nice break, right? And it also gives me an opportunity to share my process with you guys, right? Because with a lot of the commission stuff that I get, that's like for editors and so forth, I can't show that off. But private commissions, obviously with the permission of the client, I can show that off to you guys. Because unfortunately I don't get many opportunities to draw for myself, right? Which is a good thing, right? Because it means that I'm busy. And being busy is a blessing. So, these live streams, I do them to share the process with you guys. So long as I am able to, I will continue to do these and share my process with you guys, answer you guys' questions, talk about materials, techniques, you know, share some stuff with me. Shoot, I don't know everything, but you can always rest assured that I'm not going to gatekeep anything unless contractually obligated to, right? Get some hatching marks here on the helmet. This is just little accents, right? To deliver the message. And then we'll hit the gray wash, and this bad boy is donezo. I'm noticing after the fact that there was some lines that I missed, right? And just areas that could use a little hatching, just to deliver the message. Put some in here. Just tightening up some areas before we call this one. So as I mentioned, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. We do this every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Lead Poison live stream, in which case I will render through a commissioned work live on stream so you guys can witness the full process and ask any questions, right, that you may have. If you're an aspiring artist, if you do it as a hobby or what have you, you know or if you just respect the craft and just want to be educated on it a little more. Hatch in some gentle shadows in here. So now let's get the gray wash going. And for this gray wash, I'm going to tape this down so we don't get too much buckling on the paper. Put the camera back just a little bit so we can see the whole thing. So anybody who's done any watercolor in the past, you already know what this is about. This is very common practice if you're prepping a paper for stretching. All right, helps keep the paper from buckling too much. However, in this case, I keep it from buckling for the ink. Get rid of that. All right, where's my brush? All right. So for my gray wash, I'm using this Japanese sable brush, and I'm using the dirty ink water that I used to clean my nibs, and away I go. Get a little more water on that. Move the values around a bit. Help bring out all the little textures that were hiding in the piece. A little more water to help sort of like move that around. A little more water. Go a bit lighter here. All right. Get some more Wolverine. Get a little gray in there. There we go. A little gray on the bottom half of the boot here. A little bit here. You guys in the helmet. Lock in some textures on the heat. Put a little bit of value in our Hydra agent. It's taking the hit here from Cap. And we're done. Make sure that I don't have that the water is not too dark. Now, with some little bit of ambiance. Almost done, guys. So this little wash that I'm doing in the background is going to be slightly darker than what I'm doing for the characters themselves, just so that it feels a bit smokier, right? So it feels like an active battlefield, right? And it draws more attention to the characters in the foreground. Let's get it a little dark over here around our Hydra agent. So there's a little more in silhouette here. There we go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. This is the Wolverine Captain America team up for tonight's episode of Lead Poison live stream, episode 7. I greatly appreciate everybody that came out. You guys in the chat, my YouTube audience, my Facebook, my Twitch audience. You guys are amazing. I greatly appreciate you guys coming out to hang out. So follow my Instagram, Wildings Ken, as you see it on the screen there. I will be posting the finished work on the Instagram. So you can check it out, much clearer there. You'll be able to pinch and like see all the little details and so forth. All right, but this is it. So I greatly appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Thanks again. Immortal Ideas, appreciate you popping in. You know what I mean? So once again, we do this every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, I believe I have the image that's going to be on my table. I have the subject that's going to be on my table next week. It's going to be a crossover piece of Batman Beyond and Spider-Man 2099. All right. So tune in next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. If you're on YouTube, follow the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're on Twitch, please consider giving me a follow on Twitch and on Facebook. If you're seeing this on Facebook, you follow me anyway. So I greatly appreciate you. Right. So yeah, check out the finished piece on Instagram. I'll see you guys next Monday. Have a great week.